Good morning and welcome to another edition of COVID Calls. Today we're going to be discussing care homes, homes for the elderly, and all the difficulties they're experiencing, but also some of the opportunities they've found, or rather some of the sweet stories that are emerging from this whole situation. As obviously, as vulnerable people, the residents in these care homes have to take much more precautions than many other places, and many of them have been on lockdown for 8 weeks. So today we have representatives from various care homes. We have Sarah Casa from Casa Antonia. We'll bring her on the
Good
screen.
morning.
Hi, Sarah. Morning.
Good morning.
We also have Charlene Board from the St. Thomas Community Living in Marsa Scala. Morning, Charlene. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good
And
morning.
good morning. And we also have Robert Grech, one of the senior management at Casa San Paolo, together with a resident from Casa San Paolo as well, Gaetano D'Amico. Thank you very much, both of you, for being on the show as well. Can you hear me okay?
Good morning, yes, good morning. Good morning.
Okay, so I'm going to start with you, Sarah. Maybe you can give us a sense. I know that you're just out of a 3-week shift, essentially, right? Tell us a bit about the experience that you're facing.
Yeah, so since the 18th of March, we've started with a living situation whereby our staff live and work at Casa Antonia for 3 or 6 week periods. They choose which they prefer. Most of the Maltese have chosen to work for 3 weeks and then go home for 3 weeks, and then they return and the process continues. Mainly we did this because once we had restricted visitors, we were being very careful with how goods are received and brought into the home. Our main risk factor was every time there is a change of shift, which normally happens once or twice a day. Like this, it's happening once every 3 weeks.
And I guess on the plus side, when you're at home for 3 weeks, then your family doesn't need to be on lockdown, right? You've got two small children, right? Two young children. What's that been like for you? And then going home and having to deal with homeschooling and other things.
It's been difficult. It's a completely new thing. It's we're living like a long distance relationship with our family. So we have 3 weeks when we're completely cut off. We see them on through social video calls and things like that, and then we're home for 3 weeks. Those of us who work in administration, when we're home on 3 weeks, we still do emails, we still do a lot of calls, so we're still working from home and at the same time doing homeschooling and all these kind of things. It's also been difficult for our families. It's a completely new thing that the kids don't see you for 3 weeks. But we're getting used to it as well. It also gives us an opportunity when you're living at work all the time, you get to see a lot more things that normally you don't see. I'm there some evenings, but like that, I'm there for every aspect of the day. We're having breakfast there and dinner there, and we're choosing what to watch on the cinema every night. So it's been nice as well.
Okay. You also, I mean, I imagine that's a big financial burden as well, right? To have employees working, living in the center, whereas usually, I imagine you. What's it like usually in terms of the financial situation?
I mean, normally the staff would come for their shift and they have a meal and everyone goes home. Now we've had to rent a property adjacent to Casa Antonia. We have 70 employees housed at Casa Antonia, so we have the majority of our employees who are women are living in a property that we've rented, and then about 10% who are male are living in rooms. Financially, we're literally housing them, feeding them, doing laundry. Our costs have increased exponentially, about 200% on operational costs.
Including protective measures, I imagine, right? The equipment.
It's not just the living. The living costs have included food and utilities and also overtime, because moving to a living situation has meant that some of our employees cannot continue to join. People who don't have help taking care of children, people who are elderly themselves, over 65, or have comorbidities. So it has decreased slightly our pool of employees, so the other employees have to make up for them. Also working on a 3 in 3 out basis means that employees must make up for the 3 weeks out and the 3 weeks in as an overtime.
So this is a big financial burden. Are you getting any assistance from government?
No, apart from the living costs, we've bought more protective equipment, personal protective equipment at higher cost than usual because everything has gone up. We've bought more disinfectant supplies, more sanitizing supplies. We're using more labor to sanitize more, to disinfect more. Every single new procedure you start, for example, if items are now left to rest before they can be brought into the home, it's always more hours of work. So we have more expenses for PPEs and for disinfectants, more expenses for overtime. At the same time, we're not taking in new residents, so our revenue has decreased.
But no assistance from government. If I can...
So far, we haven't received any assistance from government. Mainly, most of the assistance is for businesses who have had reduced business. Our business has continued as usual. We still have our clients still open for business. Our main issue is that our costs have exploded. So far, we don't fall under any of the grants or schemes, but we're hopeful.
Okay, so I imagine that there's some movement there to try and like persuade government to give some sort of financial assistance at this time, right?
We're asking that we receive some assistance with our increased costs with relation to PPEs, with relation to overtime, with relation to the costs associated with the living arrangements, and also because of our drop in revenue.
Okay, so I'll bring you back on the call a bit later, but I just want to move on to our friends at Casa San Paolo. So we're talking to Gaetano D'Amico and Robert Grech. Robert Grech, you are one of the senior management team over here at Casa San Paolo, right? Tell us a bit about the struggles that you're facing as a home as well.
We have the same situation as Sarah described a little bit before. Basically, we have a group. At the moment, we have what we call the third phase. So we started our living on the 16th of March. So that's basically 9 days after the first case was reported in Malta. So we were quite quick in prompting this sort of new situation, and definitely to protect the vulnerable, so our residents. So we're in the 8th week at the moment. We have a group. We have 94 employees living in Casa San Paolo, and to take care around about 200 residents at the moment. There's a mix between foreigners and Maltese, and we have quite a good number who have been with us from day one. So basically, they've been here for 8 weeks living here, covering the shifts that obviously need to be covered. The needs of the residents remain there. So basically, first and foremost, we have to make sure that their needs are met. It means that employees have to work a little bit extra than their normal duties, whereas before, for example, they would follow a day in, day out, or a day-night rest of shift. They're working more hours, so obviously, as Sarah said before, even our overtime costs have shot up. But at the end of the day, it's not about financial costs. At the end of the day, is making sure that our residents are kept safe.
Obviously, let's speak to one of the residents, Gaetano. I believe you're 77 years old, right? And you've been at the home for how long?
Nearly 4 years now.
Nearly 4 years. So obviously, this has been, I imagine, the strangest part of this the experience there for 4 years, right? What is the hardest part for you?
Well, as I told you before, the hardest part for us was departing from our families, from not seeing my grandchildren, my daughters. That is very hard for us.
When was the
even here, the residents?
When was the last time you saw your grandchildren?
Well, the last time I saw them in Christmas.
Christmas. And are you managing
to... Even when I see them on Skype, the smallest one has got 4 years old. He tried to catch the screen, show me his cars, it's a pity for me seeing them like that. I had
Yeah,
never have experienced such thing in my life.
Yeah,
It's very, very pity for me to see them like that.
yeah. And have you managed to master the technology using Skype or did you find that to be a big difficulty?
Well, yes, I managed mine though. I'm not an expert, but I managed.
Yeah, yeah. And you get some help from the carers to do that?
No, I just tell my daughter, because I've got the teleview or whatever they call it, and she tells me
What to do?
what to do and not to do. That's how I manage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Definitely, Skype helped a lot.
Helped a lot to the residents.
Because, for example, like Gaetano has got his own laptop, so he can connect with his family whenever he wants. But we have designated a person, so basically she runs through the whole morning and most of the afternoon, connecting residents with their loved ones through Skype, Messenger, or WhatsApp. So when it comes to social media and Skype use, it has helped a lot. I mean, it will not bring families together. However, it will definitely try to cover a little bit the fact that they cannot physically come and see them here. So at least even the relatives, they are ascertaining themselves that their loved ones are in good hands. They're doing well, you know. So that has helped a lot.
Okay. I'll bring you back on the show soon. I just want to now speak to Charlene Borge from St. Thomas Community Living in Marsa Scala. Charlene, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So I know that you're doing some things a bit differently, some things similarly. First of all, are you also doing a sort of 3 week in, 3 week out shift, or are you doing more of a
No, we have opted for a living situation where we have been living in now since the 19th of March. So most of our 70, more than 70 staff members have been living here since the 19th of March now. So for almost 2 months.
You included?
Me included, yes.
What's that like, being away from your families and friends?
It's been very hard at times. However, I decided that since I have asked my staff members to join me in this new living situation, I said then it would be only fair that I would experience it with them as well.
Yeah,
So,
I know that you have a very interesting project as well to teach the Maltese language to some of your carers while you're there, right? Tell us a bit about this project, how it came about.
Yes, we have started an online course for our foreign nurses and carers. It's been going on every Tuesday and Thursday in the afternoon. It's very interesting and it's very engaging. They're actually enjoying it, and most of the residents and other staff members are also participating and asking them questions and testing them every day. They're enjoying it and they're actually doing quite well.
How are you doing it? Do you get a teacher in?
Yes, we have a teacher from MCAS online, of course, remotely. And yes, we're doing it remotely. And then afterwards, he also tests them. They do tests. And then we continue our testing, during the day, and we're asking them questions every day.
It must get quite tricky as well on things like Mother's Day coming up. We had Easter before. These are all events where usually, I imagine, there's more visiting, right, of relatives to.
Yes. In fact, it's been hard on the relatives, and I can understand them because I've been going through the same situation myself because I'm away from my family. Like of course they are missing their families as well, so I can understand them perfectly. Of course, they've been bringing gifts already. We're doing video calls with all our residents. We have created a private Facebook group where we show them our daily life so that at least they can see what their family members have been up to during the day as well. And we call them, we reassure them. However, of course, I can understand that they miss them. Of course, they miss them.
I think when it comes to relatives, I think the not being able to be there or to visit means that there's a lot of insecurity about how well their parents
are being taken care of. Yes.
Yeah. So I imagine there's a lot of pressure with carers and yourselves as well from the parents who are quite worried if there are health issues, etc. Right?
Yes, and rightly so, of course, because we're very lucky that most of our residents have family members who used to visit them before this lockdown situation. They used to visit their relatives almost every day. So obviously now being separated from them it's quite hard for them. We try to reassure them. We're building a very good relationship, I must say, with them, and a very good trusting relationship as well. We've been inundated with calls and messages, and we try to answer them. Sometimes it's 11 p.m. and I'm still answering, messages to reassure them that they've been sleeping, they've been taking their medication. I send them photos and videos every day, and it's not just me. Obviously, all my staff members are doing the same.
It really is a vocation, I think.
It has to be. Our job is not a job, of course.
I want to bring on Sarah now as well to discuss this point about the medical situation. I know that obviously a lot of your residents probably need quite regular medical care, tests, operations, things like that, whereas before they used to go out of the home to get that treatment. Today it's much more restricted, right? The amount of support that they can get. What are you doing? Do you have doctors in house? Is that enough? Are they concerned about the situation?
Yes, for our residents, like for all the people in the community, all non-emergency outpatients appointments are being cancelled. Here in-house, we have carers and nurses, and then we have doctors who visit regularly. We have had to adjust our procedures. For example, normally doctors would visit residents in their room. Now we have set up a clinic on the ground floor. So the doctors put on their PPEs, their protective equipment. They go to the clinic, and we bring the residents down to the clinic rather than having the doctor going around the home. Also, whenever a resident goes for an outpatient appointment, or if he needs to be hospitalized, whether it's a hospital stay or just an outpatient appointment, when they come back, we are quarantining them in a single room alone for 2 weeks. This means that unfortunately they have to stay in the room for 2 weeks. They don't integrate with the rest of the residents, and every time that the employees go into the room to provide a service, whether they're delivering breakfast or helping them bathe, they put on again the protective equipment, the mask, the gloves, and the apron.
So this really seems like everything you're doing is much harder than it was before, right? So do you see any end in sight for this? As there's also the question of you don't know how long you're going to be doing this for, right? How does that feel?
We don't know for how long it's going to go on, and also we're preparing for the long haul because we will be the last people to allow visitors in. I mean, we're all aware of this. Our residents are the most vulnerable people of society. Also, we are aware that as we move away from the live-in situation, we will start to include more procedures, which include more protective equipment, possibly the use of PPEs by staff all the time, for example. We are already doing a lot of testing. Like when the staff come in, they are tested before they come in. Everyone checks their temperature twice a day, the residents and the staff. But all the procedures are going to have to change, even when we're not in live-in. We are aware that we'll have to use more PPEs. We will have to continue with the sanitizing of the public areas more often. Yes, everything has changed, at least in some degree.
Charlene, I want to ask, I mean, we heard from a resident earlier about Skype calls and technology and things like this. Has this situation maybe given you ideas for the long term as well in terms of visiting? Because I think there is a nice aspect, right, to the fact that people are connected. Maybe they can speak to their relatives who live outside of Malta, for example, and might not have been doing that before.
Yes, we've already been experiencing such situations, in fact, and we decided to keep this for long term, in fact, and we're gonna be implementing it in the future after. So at least from every situation, there is the bright side, you know, and you always get to learn something new and get to have something positive about it. I'm a very positive person, so I always try to find the positive in everything. And to answer the question of before, yes, we've been doing exactly like Sarah. Because when you are living in situation and in lockdown, of course, and no one can leave the home or enter the home, you have to be self-sufficient, sort of. So we've all become now chefs, hairdressers, you know, allied healthcare professionals. Although we've been having some online help, however, in certain situations, you have to be sometimes a bit of a physiotherapist and sometimes a bit of a tissue viability nurse, you know.
Because it's true, I mean, there's probably a lot of expertise that you usually bring into the home that now you can't bring into the home, right? Even something as basic as hairdressers.
Yes, of course, of course. We used to have our hairdresser who used to visit the home twice a week beforehand. Now he's bringing us the products outside, and we're trying to do it ourselves.
Well, like everyone else, I guess, at the moment.
Yes, exactly. Like everyone else, but for 300 people.
Yeah. I want to ask as well about the sad situation being faced in terms of funerals. I imagine care homes tend to see, you know, residents passing away as well. And we know that funerals today are in a very sort of being done, you know, in a very restricted way. Have you had any experiences you can share with us about this?
Yes, I have. We've had a few residents who have passed away, but one in particular, we managed to, she had a ground floor room, so we managed to at least let her relatives see her from outside of the window, and she passed away peacefully. There was the priest outside, together with the relatives, and they were with her in the last moments of her life. And for me, that was a very dignified moment, you know, in my profession as well as a nurse, because I'm a nurse as well.
Okay. What about you, Sarah?
We've been lucky in that we've only had 2 deaths so far within the home. We're also lucky because our mortuary allowed access from outside of the home. So once the body is transferred to the mortuary, then people can visit and the priest can perform the blessings as usual, more or less. We had an unfortunate incident where a resident passed away and her roommate was her cousin. And it was very sad that he couldn't attend the funeral because he had to remain within Casa Antonia.
Okay. What would you say are the silver linings in all of this? In the sense, what are the lessons you've learned? We'll start with you, Sarah. What are the lessons you've learned from this whole experience?
I think we've learned first and foremost to appreciate what we have. We're appreciating our staff much more because they have all made such a big effort to stay and to live with our residents. We're appreciating our residents a lot more because now we spend more time with them. We have time to talk with them. We have time to eat with them. And it's very interesting to spend time with our residents. We also appreciate things like, for example, our garden has become invaluable. If we didn't have the garden, I don't know what we would do. It's like the center of our daily activities now. We've also learned things like how to live together, how to live with people from different continents. So in that aspect, it's been very interesting. Also, we've seen, like Charlene was saying, that many people have talents which before we were not tapping into. For example, we have a maintenance man who is a part-time DJ. When he is living in, he DJs in the evenings for the residents. We have carers and nurses who used to be hairdressers in the past, something we would have never probably found out, and now they're acting as hairdressers. everyone has had to adjust quite a bit. For example, our chef has learned how to cook Filipino rice just the right way. So we're all adjusting.
Okay, we've got Gaetano with us again. What are the silver linings? What are the positive things that you're seeing or that you've learned from this whole experience, if there have been any? Gaetano.
Well, definitely the care that we have been taking care for, especially the staff, they're going beyond their means to help us. Every time you ask for something, they help you. It's unbelievable. Being a first experience, because we never experienced such a thing like this, as if they were already experienced in this sort of things. They were very helpful. Even some 3 years ago, we had an accident here when we had the fire, and even that time, they went beyond their means to help us. Unbelievable. I can't understand how these people experience the first time, and they help you very much.
I think that's really interesting because I think it's really interesting because we're seeing that in so many sectors, that this is a brand new reality for everyone. But we're adapting so quickly, almost as if we're experienced in it, right? But also what you were saying before about the care, I think the fact that so many carers are now actually living there, night and day, means that you actually get more care in that sense, right?
It is a 24-hour a day in a way, I mean, so even when carers are off their duty, you see them helping out with activities, for example, taking initiative in doing other things, because they have to fill their time. Obviously, they need their rest period, because otherwise they would not continue. I mean, as I said before, some of them are here for the past 8 weeks. But I think it is, probably my colleagues will agree to it. It's the passion of the job. I mean, they do this job very passionately. Obviously, the training that we have given them in the past, etc., helps. But at the end of the day, what it boils down to, they actually love their job. So that's why Gaetano was saying that they're doing the extra mile, not extra mile, extra miles. They're doing because they actually love their job and love their residents.
So we're coming to the end of the program, but I just want to have a reflection from each of you, to conclude, and maybe actually your appeal to other residents in homes, your appeal to carers, and also your appeal to government or decision makers. We'll start with you, Sarah.
I hope everyone is being courageous, and I'm sure that we'll get through it. We've gone through the worst. So I wish everyone luck. I hope everyone is obeying all the directions we're getting from public health. It is very important for those of us working in the health sector that the rest of the population is. It has taught us a lot of new things, and we're looking forward to implementing what we've learned in a more normal setting. Thank you.
Okay, Charlene, from your end, what's your appeal to decision makers, to other residents and care homes?
My appeal is we're all in this together. It will be over. We will learn a lot of things from it, from this unprecedented experience. We have learned to appreciate the important things in life, and I hope that we will keep remembering what's important in the future when all this is over.
Yeah. Thank you for that. We'll start with you, Robert, and we'll conclude with Gaetano. So your appeal, and I want to know sort of even, we spoke about some of the financial realities that care homes are facing as well, so your appeal to the health authorities, to the government authorities as well, in terms of how to help you. Are you still there?
First of all, I mean, my appeal would be that we need to follow what the health authorities are telling us. Everyone, even though the numbers are going down, but we cannot let off our guard. So I keep on with by appealing to the relatives, especially to cooperate with us, because we will still need to uphold a lot of controls. So that is definitely one. To the government, to the authorities, obviously financial help will definitely do good to the service. At the end of the day, I think our contribution has helped as well in maintaining or eliminating almost completely deaths among the elderly. So we've seen what happened in the UK, in Canada, in Italy, Spain, France. The number of elderly who perished in care homes, it was frightening at one point. I mean, we were really, there was this fear in us as well. So definitely any form of help, any form of financial help will help us at this stage.
And as you said, they're not taking things for granted, because it's a very good point that up to a few weeks ago, we're seeing horror stories in elderly homes. We seem to have avoided the worst, but that's because people were vigilant, right? Gaetano, I want to ask you whether you are scared of the virus as a vulnerable person. How scared you are of the situation, and your appeal to other people like yourself in care homes or locked up at home and not being able to see their relatives.
Well, what I can say, I must thank the health authorities, because they've done a great job, not here in Malta, but we're renowned all over the world, because we have catered this problem, this pandemic situation very well. And I hope, and really hope, that this vaccine somebody will find it, because I am afraid if it turns again the second phase of this pandemic flu, I don't know how we're going to handle it now. Because believe me, I can't imagine passing again as I have passed this 9 weeks. I hope that this vaccine will be fine, or something similar to it. Because definitely, I don't think, because as I said before, we're suffering also depression here. Because staying inside between four walls, it's not a joke. The other colleagues, the managers, they can witness what I am saying, because I know even those are close behind those four walls. They left their families, their children behind. I mean, hopefully they find this vaccine. We leave everything in the hands of God now.
Are you personally very afraid?
Obviously, who's not afraid? The problem is, because even if you get this coronavirus, the problem here is you're being stigmatized. They tell you, get away from you. It's horrible. Besides getting this virus, even the people get scared of you. They don't realize that they can get it away.
The isolation is the best.
Because we are suffering a lot there, especially we, the vulnerable people, we're suffering a lot. Because other people, young ones, they think they are superheroes. They just think they are immortal. Because we are very, very vulnerable, because some people, they've got sort of disease. They've got either the cholesterol, they got the heart diseases. Obviously, those are more vulnerable. But these people, they should take care of us as well. Because the more they go out, the more we're going to remain in here, us. I hope they understand this message from the authorities.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. D'Amico, for your kind words and your important reflections. Thank you also to Robert Grech from Casa San Paolo. Thank you to Charlene Borge from St. Thomas Community Living in West. Yes, community living in Madagascar. And thank you to Sarah Cassa from Casa Antonia. I'll just give a bit of a conclusion. Well done, by the way. Thanks for all your service and to all your carers and nurses, Maltese and international, for all your work with our most vulnerable. So I just want to give a bit of a conclusion to that. First of all, thanks for watching COVID Calls once again today. We spoke about it was really heartbreaking to hear the words of that resident, Gaetano, 77-year-old resident, who is experiencing this and is helping us understand the real pain that is being experienced, especially by our elderly and most vulnerable, because they really can't do much else. They can't even see their relatives and their grandchildren. And as he said, this is leading to depression. We've spoken about mental health before, about what an impact on our mental health this is having on everyone, but obviously vulnerable and elderly people even more so. I think it was really interesting as well to hear from the managers and the carers about the work that they're doing in terms of going not the extra mile, but as we heard, the extra miles, living in these homes, being apart from their own families, and really trying their best to give the support that is necessary. And some really sweet stories, of maintenance people who end up DJing for the staff in the evening, and even foreign carers taking the opportunity to learn Maltese while in this sort of lockdown period. So thank you very much for watching. Keep sharing your stories with us. We'll be back again tomorrow on COVID Calls. Probably we're going to be discussing the justice sector and the courts, how courts are being affected by COVID. Have a great day until then, and keep following lovinwater.com.